You're not paranoid.
My lips are so chapped.
Dude, I think I'm developing a skin condition on my hands.
Is it called dryness?
It's so bad. I've never had them this dry before. Where it's
That's
like
how
you
I
can
feel about my
actually
face.
see.
Like your bones?
Yeah. Is it bad when your skin is no longer there? No, but it's like actual like white flaky, like borderline painful.
Yeah, I found a dent in my finger today because I was writing with my pen and apparently I was dehydrated. And my skin also got scaly and dry. And I was like, what's wrong with my finger? I'm like, oh, it's from writing like a normal person.
Yeah.
Close the makeup bag. I have been using, this is a free advertisement, this wonderful chapstick.
What's it called?
It's more of like a, also there are, why are they on my computer? Go away. It was like a random rabbi. Okay. On my computer looking at me. I'm like, hello, rabbi. So, rabbi, here it is. Jack, I didn't realize this, but it's actually Chapstick by Jack Black. Authentic and original. Intense therapy lip balm. Kind of reminds me of my Barbies. They had something like this, like a little accessory. Like it looked old school nautical.
Mm-hmm.
But it's very nice. And it's really tiny, which was kind of a shocker because it was like $8 on Amazon.
Oh.
But it's got shea butter and vitamin E and SPF 25.
Ooh.
And look how glistening they are.
I'm going to buy some.
Right? I like them. The only problem is it's more oil than like water-based. So sometimes on dry days like today, when you're not drinking enough water, it just feels like it sits on your lips versus being absorbed the way that you want the water to absorb into your skin. Because it doesn't happen in California because we live either in a beautiful paradise or an extremely windy, cold desert.
Dude, the winds have been killing everyone here.
The winds are making us not alive.
It's
with the sound of dread and all of us complaining about
allergies,
chapsticks and sneezing.
Blocked sinuses.
Yes. It's like, am I sick? I don't know if I'm sick. And it's just the wind. But then I'm like phlegmy and then I'm fine.
And then it's like coronavirus.
And then I'm like, where's the corona? I need a beer. This has been a long day. Oh, and to be complaining, I have my kank in my mouth, which is short for canker sore, which is not from the dirty things people might think it's from. I was born with this like this, so there it is. It is what it is.
But see, that's the thing too of like people like always associate
herpes,
because I may have had a light.
Sorry, the way you started it, that I was like, whoa.
A light case of conjunctivitis, aka pink eye,
aka
over the weekend.
Wait, really?
Oh
no.
And
so I should stop itching my red eye.
But they said it was really mild. But then my boyfriend was making fun of me, like, you got poop in your eye. And that's what I've always ever heard is pink eyes for when you get poop in your eye. But it's not. I mean, obviously you shouldn't put poop in your eye. But it's like the cold virus.
Gets in your eyeball. Interesting.
Or something like that. Which makes sense because my mom's a teacher and that's her. She has a very good immune system, except her weakness is pink eye. And she thinks that it's when everyone has the sniffles or the colds.
And they stick their fingers in her eye?
Like she'll go to like help them and she'll like use their pen or they use her pen. And then you just inadvertently touch your eye, scratch it, put your fake eyelashes on.
Ew.
Yeah, so there's
all the gross things.
Rumor
she should just wear swim goggles and then she can't itch her eye. And then the minute she has to remove them, she has to put on hand sanitizer. It's like, why are my eyes so foggy? Oh, it's from my swim goggles. Oops, time for hand sanitizer.
Yeah, I didn't realize how much. I didn't think I touched my eyes that much, but
turns out
I do. I mean, not a lot, but now I'm more aware of it.
Right.
It's more itchiness, and I want to like.
Well, plus when you're hyper aware and also you have pink eye, of course it's going to be itchier.
No, but they never like hurt or anything, which was weird, and it never itched.
General life or conjunctivitis?
No, when I had it.
That's nice.
So That's why he was like, 'cause of course everything happens to me on the weekends, so I have to go to urgent care.
Mm-hmm.
So he was like, he's like, yeah, very mild. Because it was like puffy. And it was like the slightest pink.
Mm-hmm.
So.
You were like, conjunctivitis, pink eye.
I was like, well, I don't know, because it's contagious.
True.
And so he's like, maybe slightly.
He's like, don't touch your eye like that anymore.
Don't put.
You're just like, it's because I keep doing this. And you're just like jabbing your eye with your finger.
Yeah. But it's all right. Back to your kink or sore.
You always have to make it about you.
I know.
No, I'm just kidding. I'm usually the one that interrupts, actually. So it's nice to get interrupted.
We're just talking.
I mean, that's conversation. Yeah, no, I bit the shenanigans out of my cheek. Like the inside of my mouth. And you know when you bite it once and then you keep biting it?
And then it gets swollen.
But then the other day I was having dinner with my fiance and I bit it so hard it like crunched. Like it went like
your teeth went all the way through.
No. You're
like,
so funny. You like assume the worst case immediately. Like you bit it off. No. So it's like, you know, those inside of your corners of your mouth, there's like that little pokey thing. You're like, what is that? It feels like a little Tic Tac.
Wait, what?
It's like a little, not Tic Tac, but it's like, it's a little rod shaped. Like if you picture like with your tongue, touch the inside part.
Mine's not rod. Mine feels more like a triangle.
Okay, you have a great tongue then because you can decipher. Mine just feels like a little something something.
Or like a ridge.
A ridge. Fine. A ridge, not a Tic Tac. It's a ridge. Well, I bit the ridge once and then it stuck out a little bit because it got swollen. And then I like chomped it and then it crunched, like the skin crunched.
Ooh.
And now whenever I bite my mouth or my tongue or I burn it or anything happens to my mouth where you look at it, I swear I get a kink or sore. So here we are. If I sound weird, it's because I'm in pain a little bit, trying to hang in there. Don't mind me. But I talk for a living, so I've gotten used to it today.
Yay.
That's life.
Yeah.
And here we go.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I undid it.
You unended it?
I undid it because I wasn't ready.
Oh, now we can't start.
Shoot. Okay, let's do it again. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hi.
Hello.
This is Kylie.
And I'm Katie.
And this is
You're Not Paranoid.
Here we go.
Podcast.
Yes. Episode 47.
8.
The
high 40s.
Is it?
I think so.
I don't know math.
I don't know numbers, so
we don't do that.
We double struck out.
But it's full count and we're not out yet. So don't.
It'll be episode 47, you're right.
Thank you. I was
You're
like,
welcome.
where was the episode? Katie's recording without me. She's on a different episode. She's already moved on.
I'm one ahead, so the audio that I play for the episodes are different for my part.
Right. You're just already staggering it. Clever. She is the audio master, so that makes sense.
Bet you couldn't tell.
What does that mean? That you're an audio master or that you have a side podcast? Because this hurts my feelings.
That I'm just like randomly splicing in my parts.
I like it. It's good.
Thank you.
That would be kind of funny if somehow you were able to make a podcast where you just took my audio and then merged it with a different episode of your audio and see how it like goes back and forth. It would probably sound bad, but it's fun to imagine.
Yeah. We'll think about it. We're
Ponder
not going to do it though.
Experiments. We are experimenters. Not in that way, but in audio kinds of way and in science kinds of ways. Funny fact, personal facts, we don't do drugs.
No.
But we do enjoy alcohol.
Over the counter, prescribed by my medical professional.
Occasionally Sudafed. I have to show my ID.
Oh, yeah.
Sudafed's the good stuff, but...
It is. Kylie's turned me on to Sudafed.
Yeah.
For when we're sick.
Obviously. We have a lot of sinus problems.
I'm going on Friday.
Going to get Sudafed?
No, to our ENT.
We have a shared ENT.
Because Kylie recommended
Actually, even my fiance goes there. Is it weird I say it like that? I have fun.
No, you can say it however you want.
My feet. Was Fifi the other day because I called him my Fifi? It's so funny. I was realizing, like, I think that was because
I couldn't remember the other one you were trying to say that sounded more like feces. So I just
maybe, I don't know. I'm gonna stop. That's great.
Happy past Valentine's Day.
Oh yeah,
that's how I'm spending my Valentine's Day at the NT.
The Ent. Good for you. You know what? Your sinus loves you, and they appreciate you.
Yeah.
Sinuses are quite large, apparently. We should interview her one day. I'm sure she has some good stories. But like, doctor, tell me about my surgery. And then she can just tell all the gruesome details about how I was like probably. She did tell me I bled a lot.
Really?
She had to keep stopping because my surgery took quite some time. Yeah. I don't remember. I was sedated.
It felt like I was bleeding a lot.
Katie and I was like, Katie, it'll be fine. Get the sinus surgery. And then she had like a traumatizing, completely awake. This is horrific scenario.
It was fine. I feel a lot better now.
Yeah, it made a difference. I agree. Okay. So, for Valentine's Day, you already saw, but if you didn't see, go back and look. I posted something super cute and funny. Share it with your significant others. It's never too late to share love.
Do you do anything on Valentine's Day?
I did.
I mean, like in general.
Oh, I was trying to make up something I maybe
it?
did in the future. Then I can look back and be like, yeah. Well, I guess one thing since last episode, we just celebrated our 5-year anniversary of being together. So, and you had yours recently too.
February.
Yeah.
They were not smart and they did it before Valentine's Day.
They couldn't wait. They needed to lock in a Valentine.
I mean, maybe. I was like, that's not a good time or good timing.
It's like double.
Because it's like now you're just starting out being official and right off the bat you've got Valentine's Day.
Yeah, but that's why they wanted to have a special someone so that we didn't find another Valentine.
Maybe.
Maybe it's Valentine's.
Maybe it's Valentine's.
Yeah, so we combine usually.
Yeah.
Which is like, not a big deal.
Yeah, I don't really like Valentine's Day that much.
Side note, I do like the chocolate.
I'll go get the chocolate when it's on sale.
Yes.
Yeah.
The secret day after Valentine's Day. It's not that big of a secret, but it's on sale.
Yeah.
And what was I going to say? Oh, for our anniversary, I wish I could say his name. My Fifi got me. I'll just go back and forth with the names. It was funny because we were talking, and this is a little bit personal, but I was saying how I'm the kind of girl that I personally would rather have fishing waders more than like lingerie or something like, seductive. And so that's what I got for our anniversary is a pair of waders and fishing boots, which I'm like super stoked on because I didn't have a pair, and I was like wading boots. Basically, you can go in rivers and water and stuff like that and not get all messed up. Like it's made to go in water.
Like showering and stuff.
No, like knee deep in the, just across the river bend, fishing.
There she is.
Yep, there I am.
Dry.
Yep, and yeah, and before I was getting my hiking boots wet, so it's kind of annoying when your socks get wet and your socks are wet. No one's happy, especially me. So
that's cool.
There we are, and I love fishing, so it's kind of nice because now I can be more comfortable, and it's exciting.
Nice.
And that's what we're doing. Not fishing, but enjoying your waders.
Just wearing them around. It's a new style.
It is.
I like it.
Thanks. It's like Billie Eilish, but fishy Eilish. Just like weird big clothes for no reason.
There you go.
Perfect. Now my hair is green. What? I could be Kylie Eilish. It's kind of hard to say. As Fifi, I hate saying that. As the significant other calls her, I think he called her like Belly Eyelash or something like that, because it's kind of like Billie Eilish. He came up with something funny. I'm done with it. It's fine. You get it. End of story. What about you? What are you doing for Valentine's Day?
Nothing.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Well, the ENT is by my boyfriend's house.
Aww.
So maybe I will see each other. But then
my
it's like
boyfriend is my ENT.
Well, the secret's out.
Little secrets.
But it's Valentine's Day, so I don't want to go out because every place is going to be crowded.
True. So then you stay in and your place won't be crowded.
Or you can get fast food.
Ooh, yeah. Hey, I heard Olive Garden is doing takeout for Valentine's Day.
Dude, Valentine's Day was the worst.
When you worked at Olive Garden?
Yeah, I worked at the Olive Garden as a to-go person, and they had like all of the to-goes working Valentine's Day.
Of course.
Because it's like, yeah, the wait's 2 or 3 hours. And then, like, we'll just get it to go. Because that's going to be faster because they think it's a separate kitchen. But it's not.
That makes sense. That's really funny, actually.
Yeah, restaurant working is not fun.
It's interesting to see the other side of the life.
Yeah.
Inside the kitchen.
There's a lot of learning.
Fair
and
enough.
Life skills.
I'm sure.
But
that is funny, though. That does make sense. I think people do think there's a separate kitchen just for to-goes.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like drive-through versus in-person.
Mm-hmm.
Similarly, I think that's true. I
Well,
always wondered,
the to-go is going to be faster.
And why?
I think it's given priority. I think it's the same way with like mobile orders for Starbucks.
Uh-huh.
I feel like those are given priority.
Right. Because they're at least given a heads up.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, we just refuted our own statement. Like, how would they expect it to be faster? Like, actually, it is
I think
faster.
they just put the to-go orders like a little bit
them to the front. Got it.
So you'll still wait if it's really
Just
crowded.
Not as long.
Yeah.
Got it.
Maybe like 40 minutes instead of 2 hours.
Oh, gee, that's still too long. But at least to go, you can leave and come back.
Mm-hmm.
Fair enough.
So there you go. There's the lowdown.
That's lowdown.
all I will say about the Olive Garden.
Mm-hmm. I know there's a lot to say, but that's all for now.
I'm not getting sued by anyone.
No. It's kind of like you said screwed, and I thought that was really funny. Like, I'm not getting screwed by anybody. Oh my gosh. Oh dear. And
anyways,
that is cool. Good. Exciting. Let us know where you ended up going. We'll talk about it next week.
Mm-hmm.
Even though it's already happened.
That's fine. We're delayed.
It's cool. It doesn't mean we can't talk about it.
Yeah.
Right?
We can talk about whatever we want, whenever we want.
And we are. So there's that. Cool. But you're on board, so why are we talking to you like that? I don't know. So here we are. Last episode.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty heavy.
Yep.
Talked about self-defense.
Mm-hmm.
And now we're getting the nervous itchies because I do
Why
that too. We both were like, itchy. Why am I so itchy? It's not from that. It's because we are excited to talk about this next thing. And the nice segue, we didn't actually say it last episode. We decided offline.
Mm-hmm.
The last thing that we had said that we're like, ooh, that would be an interesting episode, but it wasn't really a good segue, was the concept of, do we ever get a fair trial?
Yeah, that's what I said. And I was like, well, that's not.
You're like, that's another day.
That's another time.
So, last episode was self-defense. And then this episode is pushing off of that and into survivor stories, which I think is a good segue and a good bridge. But I just wanted to say one more thing about last episode. And also, I'm sorry if I sounded awkward you could hear me like literally struggling to get through some of my thoughts. So apologies. It's okay to apologize sometimes. That's that. But here's what I was thinking, and I thought about it in the car driving while listening to that episode, and I was like, dang it, why didn't I say it at the time? Just in general, like when I remember, I think I've told you before, I've talked to friends about self-defense and the concept of, if you were attacked, would you fight back? Mm-hmm. And I've actually heard people who I consider like strong women in my life say no, that they wouldn't fight back. Like, if it's going to happen, it's going to happen. Fate is like that. That's just life, blah, blah, blah. To which I came to realize that I think the reason people tend to shy away from self-defense, or the thought of self-defense, is because they think that fighting back or having aggression towards someone is equivalent to that person who is attacking them. Mm. Like, they would then become equally evil, so to speak, as that person committing the attack. But here's the problem, or here's what's going on. No matter what you feel or what they're feeling, they're attacking you anyways.
Mm-hmm.
And typically people are not attacking you for a good reason, unless you're being like jumped on by your dog and then they're licking your face, or your fiance or boyfriend or girlfriend or family members jumping on you and surprising you, and you're like, but it's actually out of love. This is not that. Like, you'll know it's bad. And at that point, you have to have that mentality of survival before it even happens to you, so that by the time that you're caught in the middle of it, you already have that chance of survival because you've thought about that. Like, you already know that your life is worth fighting for before you're put in that scenario where you have to make the choice. So I think that's all we're trying to say.
Yeah.
Last episode is like, it's not about the fight. It's about, like, we're not trying to say, like, here's how to be aggressive towards someone. That's not the point. The point is just to have it in your head that you're worth living. Like, it's worth living, and it's worth knowing that people can do these things to you so that you know to fight back. And I'm back in a circle. So here it is. Cool. So, like we said, we're talking about survivor stories because what's the fun of self-defense if you're not surviving? That sounds really awful. What am I trying to say? Can you help me out, please?
Like the positive outcome?
Yes.
Of self-defense?
Yes. Katie's good with words.
Sometimes.
So, I also found a website, actually, called Victims of Crime, and we've talked about them before.
Is that the BJs where they get their stats from?
I think so. I remember what we were talking about before. But this one's called victimsofcrime.org, but I think it was from that same episode.
Okay.
And
because that's how they categorize it, is like crimes of victimization on the bjs.gov.
Got it. It's so hard to talk about that seriously when you say that website. So this one's called Self-Defense Skills for Sexual Assault and Abuse Survivors. And it basically goes through and just talks about the different techniques and how to reduce the risk of sexual assault, which you don't like. Obviously, we shouldn't have to go through this, but like we're saying in this, victimsofcrime.org is saying like it happens, and so these are ways that we can avoid it or try to reduce the chance. And it also goes into it's called empowerment self-defense. So these are like for survivors specifically. And even if you're not a survivor, I'm sure it's still extremely helpful and you can learn a lot from it. And then there's that self-defense paradox. And this is what I think, it's funny because I had already had that thought written down earlier before I saw this. But the self-defense paradox is that there is one person responsible for any act of interpersonal violence, which is the perpetrator. And each of us can take action to increase safety. So it's like it goes in a circle where basically you're trying to be safe, but you're also trying to avoid. Do you know what I mean?
Cool. Yeah. And also, so I know this gets brought up a lot too, of like also teaching young people about consent and like the like appropriate ways to behave, so that it's not always on like the quote unquote victim to like stay safe. But it unfortunately still happens, right? So like the more knowledge you have, the better. But
yeah, exactly. And I think this website is aimed to empower like victims specifically, or not victims but survivors specifically, so that they feel like they're in more control. And we all want to feel like we're in more control. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But you're right. At the same time, not to place blame, but rather promote that idea that we can take control of our circumstances. Possibly. I mean, that's what we're all trying to do.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a very cool PowerPoint, and it explains the different benefits of the self-defense and etc. I thought that was interesting.
That's good.
And then there was one more thing, and this was called, this is from the breathenetwork.org. And I thought it was super interesting. It's building resilience through embodied approaches to healing is the breathe. And this particular letter, and we'll post it on our website, you'renotparanoid.com. It's called An Open Letter to Self-Defense Instructors. And I've actually considered wanting to be a self-defense instructor at some point. So then just reading it and then also doing jiu-jitsu and thinking about it from these perspectives and the stories that we were going to talk about today, it's interesting to keep in mind. So a couple of the things that they're talking about is knowing that the trauma that people have gone through, especially if you're doing a self-defense for people who are survivors of these circumstances, you might be putting survivors into like vulnerable positions or things that have been, they can relate to their trauma. And so it's just like being sensitive to that, being in vulnerable positions. Don't say like calm down or relax, because people will be more, defensive. Making yourself available like emotionally and being able to like refer people to counseling classes, just stuff like that. Not that people here are trying to be like listeners are trying to be self-defense instructors, but there's just more to it. Like taking a self-defense, like one self-defense course is not going to make you so much more entirely safe and well-rounded than someone who doesn't have a self-defense course. That's not the point. The point is to see it as as a whole. It's not just the physical knowing of how to protect yourself, but it's also having that mental knowledge that this is all it's very real and that people do go through this. So I thought that was interesting too. And not so much, I don't want to say interesting. The amoebas are interesting. This is like eye-opening, Yeah. Thought that was nice. Do you have a survivor story?
Yes. But I was trying to find like stats on survival stuff, but it was kind of hard. Yeah. And I couldn't really find any. When I was typing in like survival stats, it was all about like cancer or heart attacks. And then trying to put crime after it, then it was just trying to like predict like crime and like stats in that way. So I couldn't really find any stats. But I did find this article that was pretty interesting, and it kind of segues off of your the organization. This was from NCBI, so people are trying to study this. But the question, here the title is, Could We Have Known? A qualitative analysis of data from women who survived attempted homicide by an intimate partner.
Holy bleep.
Yeah, so this is by Christina Nicolaitis and Collings. And colleagues. So this was interesting too because she's a medical doctor. So this was from like the clinician standpoint of how can we like pick out, or like are there signs or ways that we can predict that someone is in danger from like the current circumstances.
Whoa.
So it's pretty interesting. They interviewed 30 women who had an intimate partner attempt to kill them, and their ages were from 17 to 54.
Jeez.
So their objective was to identify patterns to help clinicians' ability to predict, prevent, or counsel about femicide or attempted femicide. And femicide is the killing of women.
Yeah, I think we've talked about that on another episode as well.
So it's kind of interesting. It went into some of their findings and all that stuff. The sad part was 14 out of the 30 women did not recognize that their life was in danger. Until
it was too late, until it was actually happening.
So they thought they were safe. And most of the women said that their concerns in the relationship were about like money, alcohol, drugs, possessiveness, or infidelity, but not their own safety.
Wow.
The majority of the attempts of murder at the time was when the relationship was changing, but it was usually ending because of other reasons and not the violence. Because
and that's the hard part with trauma and domestic abuse.
Yeah, and that kind of ties when it's interesting that the reason for the relationship ending was not the violence, because all but 2 of the women being interviewed had previous violence from that partner or controlling behavior or both. So the intensity varied greatly, and with more like almost half like thinking they weren't in danger, they kind of concluded that if a woman thinks they're safe, or they say like, oh, everything's fine, to not really take, or like their opinion or perspective of things isn't necessarily what's really happening. So and I don't know in what aspect clinicians are seeing these women, like if there is other abuse and like there's black eyes and bruised bodies and like, oh, I fell down the stairs, and so then at that point they're trying to assess if they're in danger in terms of like femicide. I mean, I don't know, but I guess
maybe. Well, it sounds like this one was an after the fact looking back.
Yeah, but just like I mean more of like why they're studying, like the objective of trying to like for clinicians to try to pick this out. So I don't know if they're like in clinics or something, they're seeing women like bruised and battered, and
possibly
so I mean that's kind of cool in that regard, that medical professionals are the ones that are looking into this,
paying attention.
I mean, it should be more, but this was just one article or paper. So it was saying that clinicians should not falsely be reassured by women's sense of safety, the lack of history of severe violence, or the presence of few, quote, classical risk factors of homicide. So basically saying like what you think needs to be there is not necessarily true. So I mean, I guess it kind of makes the question harder.
Right. Like not all the signs have to be there to be domestic abuse, like victims of domestic abuse, or have the classic signs rather.
Yeah. And I mean this is
quote unquote classic.
Yeah. This is I mean it's not a survivor story in the the other sense, but just because these women had survived attempted murder, that I found this article interesting. And then it kind of went, so this is like veering a little bit away from the not I Survived, that's the show, but like survival stories, just like some facts about femicide, which I thought was really sad too. Femicide is one of the leading causes of premature death in the USA for women, and the leading cause of death for African American women between the ages of 15 and 34.
Wow.
And other interesting part, or not sad, is 3 to 6% of male homicide victims are killed by an intimate partner, but 30 to 55% of femicide is by an intimate partner. Yeah. So there's quite a discrepancy.
I mean, that's what they say, right? Is that a lot of times stalkers or murderers are by people you know.
And that's where
which is like so much. Like, we want to think that a stranger murdering you it seems more scary because it's unexpected, but it seems less likely to happen.
Yeah.
I mean, like all those snap shows.
Yeah.
Those are all people that they knew or their significant other.
Yeah, I think that, it's really scary when you think about that's going to be someone you know.
Yeah.
65 to 85% of intimate partner femicide were previously abused by that partner that ended up killing them.
And that's the thing too, women being that's like a different episode too entirely of domestic abuse. I feel like it's hard because like women, like I can't speak from experience exactly, but just seeing and hearing people's stories, it's like they get told, oh, it's gonna stop, or that kind of thing, because you think like, oh, why are they dealing with this, why are they putting up with it? But that's what makes it traumatizing and abuse, is that it's not just physical, it's emotional as well,
and it's not constant.
Right.
So there's the parts where it's good, and then you think like, oh, they do love me, and they are going to try to change.
And they're manipulative, and you're vulnerable.
Yeah, it's messed up.
Beyond messed up.
Yeah. So, I mean, that was kind of the article paper. That was interesting, because that was one of the things that came up when I was trying to find survivor stats. So.
Yeah, because I think it's good it was by an article by a female as well, because it's really, like we were talking about, like the whole concept of victim shaming and making people feel blamed, like you should have known better, should have whatever, that they're actually trying to look into that as like a preemptive measure, like what can be done, or what can be known possibly ahead of time. Oh, that's so scary. Hopefully all those men went to jail.
Hopefully.
Terrifying. Okay. I had a story here. So this one, I found the scariest stories from I Survived. And this is an article from September 5th of 2018. So they're pretty recent.
Yeah, it's been on for 10 seasons.
Dang. Okay. Well, there's a lot of stories. I wish I went through and watched actual episodes. These are just stories that I found online. But considering there's 10 seasons, I think that would have been really hard to narrow down.
Yeah.
Because the I Survived show itself is not just about survivors of attacks or murder or something like that, or attempted murder, rather. They're also, I was kind of glancing because I saw some other ones. They're also survivors of like freak accidents and jumping out of an airplane or caught in a natural disaster and like all these crazy things. So definitely worth checking out if you guys get some time. Okay, so this story is about Jennifer Holliday. Have you heard of her?
Maybe if you keep telling the story.
Okay.
But not just the name. So
this story is about 18-year-old Anna Franklin and her older cousin Jennifer Holliday, who were driving and at night. And then they left us. They went to the store and then were on the freeway driving north. I don't know why that detail matters. But 31-year-old Eric Parnell drove up beside the women in his car and shot a gun at them.
What?
Shot his gun at them, which hit 18-year-old cousin Anna Franklin in the arm. Not great. If you're just driving with you and your cousin having a great time. I mean, looking at these age, like this is me and my cousin. Those are like my cousin and I age almost. I cannot even imagine you're just like driving on the freeway and get shot in the arm.
That's so scary. That's not something you should have to be worrying about.
No. And so naturally the women are freaking out. They pull the car over and then he follows them, pulls over with them, gets out of his car and shoots at them again.
I have not heard this one, by the way.
Okay. So unfortunately, he ended up shooting Anna in the head and she died at the scene. And Jennifer Holliday, the older cousin who was driving, ran as fast as she could into the woods, deep into the woods, and then he followed her, and then he raped her and tortured her.
Just on the side of the...
In the woods.
But just there.
Just there. I mean, as we're talking about, oh, it's rare for someone you don't know to freaking attack you. Here we are talking about it.
Here's an example.
Yeah. So then she's taken into the woods. Anna, or what was her name? Jesus.
Jennifer.
It's hard to think Anna Franklin and Jennifer Holiday. I keep wanting to call her Hannah because of the H and the A. I was going back and forth. So anyways, this one's better. So he takes her into the woods, like I said, and then Jennifer is pleading with him to have him take her to his house in hopes that she can find a phone or something like this, because she herself is actually bleeding a lot too. She got shot in the arm. So when it hit Anna, it also, because I think it's a shotgun, it's gonna hit anyone in its way, so to speak, or anyone who's there, which she was hit. So she is bleeding a ton. She actually manipulated him. This part is crazy. She somehow was able to manipulate Parnell to believe that he didn't kill her cousin, and that he really just stopped off the side of the road to help her out, and that if he brought her in to the hospital to get treatment for her injuries, she promised him that she would marry him and that they could just move on with their lives. So mind you, he's already messed up.
Yeah.
So
obvious.
that's a known fact in this story.
And she
basically
it.
While losing blood and while basically trying to prevent herself from passing out.
And after being tortured and raped.
Yes. So he being exactly. Thank you. Not to move on from that, but that's there's like 5 different levels of trauma here. Watching your cousin die, running into the woods, being raped and tortured, you're shot, you're trying not to pass out, and also you have to come up with a way to escape the clutches of a mother effing psycho.
That's crazy that's how powerful your mind is.
That's that survival mentality that she already, had in her head of like, you just have to keep going. And apparently she was able to confuse him into getting help. Wow. And then he was charged with murder and taken to jail.
So he took her to the hospital?
Yeah.
Whoa.
He got her help. So that's the thing. There is insane people are not reasonable in either way. Wow. You know what I'm saying? Like, he clearly was not in a mental capacity to see through her being manipulative, because the evil thing about evil people, which is so ironic, is that just like they think they're so in control and they're used to being quote unquote in control or manipulating other people, that they themselves can be manipulated in that way. Yeah. Like it seemed in this case like he was such a narcissist, feeling like in such control, that she was able to find that one thing that got to him of like, you can be released of your, basically like trying to take away from, kind of like what we're talking about with the Reed method, kind of demoralize, make him feel less guilty. And actually, instead of not feeling guilty for what you've done to my cousin, why don't you know what? You're not a lost cause. Help me out. We'll get married. It'll be best. Like, we can move on. Your life will be better. You did this to earn this life. Like, I don't know what she said, but think about it. Like, if you twist it around, an insane person, you tell an insane person insane ideas, they'll believe it. Right? Yeah. Thought that was really cool, crazy. I think it's an extraordinary outcome considering the circumstance. I mean, at the end of the day, she's extremely she's traumatized, lost her cousin, got shot, barely survived, but she did. Wow. Isn't that crazy? And his scary is not his scary. His picture is scary. That's what I was trying to say.
Did they ever say, like, why he did that?
Not that I could see. No.
Just felt like it.
He was taken into custody, charged with first-degree murder, aggravated assault, and kidnapping. Officials say that he had given a statement saying he was angry with the women because they did not speak favorably to him at Polk's, which I'm assuming is the store they were at.
So
earlier.
Technically not totally random, but enough to be... It's a stranger, but
yeah.
in his mind,
they were talking about him. I don't see, at quick glance that they were talking unfavorably of him. Because he may just be a mother effing crazy person.
Yeah, and then just saw them and stalked them.
Or assumed that they were laughing at him or something like this. I mean, I can look it up really quick. Yeah, so this actually happened in the early hours on Sunday morning. So they were out that night before visiting friends. Quote, there was so much glass in my face and so much blood everywhere that I had to pull over. He came up asking, yikes. I don't know why I didn't see this article earlier. Apparently, after shooting at them, he came up to them and asked if they were okay. And then the cousin started calling 911, and then things just escalated and got way worse.
Jeez.
Quote, and my cousin started screaming. She knew he had shot me. She knew there was a bullet hole in my arm. And he went back to his truck to get a shotgun. And no, he didn't say anything. He just held the shotgun up and hit her right in the head.
Jeez.
And this is Anna Holiday talking about her. Or, I'm sorry.
Jennifer.
Why is that so hard? Jennifer Holiday talking about her cousin Anna. So I misspoke. Jennifer got shot in the arm, and then he came back and shot Anna, probably because she was calling. I'm assuming because she was calling 911 or calling for help.
Mm-hmm.
Took her into the woods. There are some other. They go on to explain what he did about torturing her. She says that the reason. So she says, quote, I figured that was going to be the only chance to use a phone or find anybody around. By that time, I had lost so much blood I could hardly stay awake. Once she had got to... she was able to convince him that she loved him. And she says, it was the only chance I had to ever possibly get away from him. He told me he was going to kill me just like he did my cousin. But I knew that was the only chance I had to possibly get some help. Apparently, at that time, she had, because she had like an actual, like being shot with a shotgun is not good. That doctors were telling her like it's going to take a lot of time to get her arm to be functioning again, because I'm guessing that she lost function in her arm. Mm-hmm. I mean, if you get a shot, that's insane. And then actually, Anna's mom went on to talk about how, enjoy your time with your family and spend as much time with them, because you just never know when stuff is going to happen like this.
Mm-hmm.
And that was where that one left. So this article came out in 2005. So it's weird because none of these are giving me like an actual, like this happened on X day. But it's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then it's actually, there's her pictures on this poor lady. If it doesn't get any worse, there's a whole other article about how apparently she's, quote, too wealthy to qualify for, certain types of medical care, but too poor to qualify for limited health care. So she has to drive 175 miles twice a week for physical therapy because her medical group closer to her house won't accept her insurance. But look at her arm.
Oof.
It's like completely, I mean, there's like a gash in it, and then there's also a giant scar where they probably have done several operations. Jeez. So it's like if things can't be worse, she has to go through all of that. And that's a whole article about medical insurance, but using her story as an example, which is insane. Crazy, right?
Yeah. It's like, how about we just let that one slide? And
I
just
know.
help
That's
her.
I think that's like the second part that's extremely, you can bleep that. Are you okay with bleeping? Is it hard? The shitty thing about this is that not only does she have to deal with all that part of it, then she has to deal with the medical expenses for something she didn't cause and then live with the trauma and the scar and the injury. It's just, what the F? I didn't actually say it. But what the F, you know?
Yeah.
All because maybe he thought, I mean, that could be, he could just be saying that. You know, he thought that they spoke unfavorably of him. Of course, how convenient that it's for him to say no. Why didn't he say anything to them at that location? Why didn't he say anything to them when he went to shoot him?
Yeah.
Wrong, just like wrong place, wrong time.
Yeah.
There's never a good, I feel like never a good moral from these kinds of stories because it's like, why would you expect that to ever happen? And like when you do if you do go to think like what you have done differently,
even if
not go out that night, not allowed to drive,
even if they did say something bad about him, you don't get like shot with a shotgun.
No, absolutely not. And then you think, oh, why didn't she keep driving? Because as she said, she had glass in her eye and blood everywhere, and she herself, the driver, was shot in the arm. And
I would assume too that you don't even necessarily know that he was the one that shot them originally.
No, or even what's going on.
Yeah, because if he comes up like, oh, is everyone okay? Then it's like, oh, he must have saw that person shoot us,
and they're in shock. It's it's just crazy that there's even one survivor considering this whole story.
Yeah.
He deserves to be gone forever. In a very dark place.
Yep.
Okay, so but she survived. I wish they both survived, obviously. That's the only, there's, like many crappy parts, but that's a huge one. Do you have another survivor story?
I do.
Okay.
I'm the part of I survived where some people may fast forward it. But I thought it would be fun to do a non-criminal one.
Okay. No, that's fine.
Just so we can encompass all of the I survived genres.
I was just trying to go with self-defense.
No, I know.
I was kind of wanting to do a non, so I'm glad you did.
This is from outdoorlife.com.
Ooh.
And it's 12... Let me get back to the title. 12 remarkable survival stories and what we should learn from them.
Ooh.
Do you have a lot of the classics like the Donner Party, the rugby team that got stuck on the mountain and then had to eat each other?
What?
You haven't heard that one?
No.
Ooh.
Dude.
In the 70s, the Uruguay rugby team's plane crashed in a snowy mountainous region, and several people survived, but a lot did not. And since it was like so snowy and bad weather and all that stuff, it seems like now immediately people go out and like try to find them, or like just if a plane crashes, but help didn't come for a while and they couldn't really hike out of the mountains. And so the people that were deceased, the people who survived, decided that to survive, it would be best to eat them.
Oh my gosh.
Similar to the Donner Party. Who also ate people.
The survival crew gets there. They're like, it was only a day. What are you doing? That's messed up.
Yeah.
But
they've eventually like decided that help was not going to come. And so they ended up hiking out to a certain point, and then I think people found them.
Wow. That would be... I feel icky just thinking about that. Knowing that they're already dead. You have to survive. Under what circumstances and what method?
And that's what people were saying. There's a book called Miracle in the Andes about it, and it's like you don't really know.
Miracle? Like them living was a miracle? Or it's a miracle they were able to consume their own flesh?
A miracle that they survived because it was several weeks.
Wow.
So they had stuff on the plane, and then at one point they're like, we're either all gonna die or we can try to survive.
That would be I don't know if I can make that decision. let's not talk about it.
Yeah. But so there's those. Then the one that I wanted to say briefly, where is it? It's also very sad. I mean, not that any... I mean, that's probably the sad part, too, of survival stories. And a lot of the ones on I Survived is that you feel happy because the person obviously is telling the story of their survival. But a lot of times it involves other people dying or not being so lucky, you know?
And they weren't lucky at all anyways.
Yeah.
It means they're alive, but they still have to live with everything they went through.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, survive, like, you know, it's surviving it. It's not like, you know.
Not like thriving from this experience.
Yeah.
They're not enriched, you know. Ugh.
Yeah.
That sounds really, that was the wrong reaction. Ugh, as in, like, I cannot imagine.
Mm-hmm. No, I understand.
Okay, everybody else needs to know, and I'm not, like, disgusted by people's survival. Oh, dear.
This one I did not know about. This is Julianne Diller. Excuse me.
I literally just burped at the same time. That was so cool.
Yay.
Burp jinx.
Oh, man. She was so this is really poopy. She was the sole survivor of the 93 passengers and crew in the December 24th, 1971 crash of Flight 508 in the Peruvian rainforest.
What?
And she was 17 at the time. Only survivor.
How?
And the plane crashes in the rainforest. So this is crazy. She fell thousands of feet from the plane, still strapped into her seat. But because it was the rainforest, there was enough of a canopy of trees that she didn't die. And it, like, kind of cushioned her fall through.
That's like a movie.
Mm-hmm. That's why I just imagine, like, seeing the seat, like, fall. And, like, to survive this, just that part alone is crazy.
Oh, my Lord.
So she, and then they say only because, I mean, she fell out of the sky. She only suffered a broken collarbone and a gash in her arm, and her right eye was swollen shut. So the person who was writing the articles, because they also kind of do a takeaway after each story, they were saying what was important in her case, she didn't have any of the gear or, you know, specific training for surviving in the rainforest, but her parents had always told her that the best way to find people in the jungle was to follow a waterway. Why her parents told her that, I don't know, but it's one of those things. Maybe they went
camping a lot.
Yeah, or one of those things where it's like, you know,
or when she was a little kid, if
like
like
those little, like everything happens for a reason.
Yeah.
So, like, her parents were telling her. So she did. So she was, you know, she's like, recognize she's in a rainforest. Rainforest has to have.
Well, she had a really good view, so I think she knew what she was landing in.
Oh, yeah, from above.
That would be so effing scary.
Like, you, and not in a morbid way, but if, God forbid, I was ever in a plane that's going down, I am assuming that I am going to die. So then
I thought about that several times, and I can't even imagine having that feeling of realization.
So it's like you go from, like, you know, making your peace to then now you're, like, in the rainforest. And you're like, okay, I guess I have to, you know, find a way out. So she was eventually able to find the river, and she walked along it for 9 days.
9 days?
And then eventually she found a canoe and a shelter where she waited and was then rescued by 2 loggers.
Bloggers or loggers?
Loggers.
Kind of sound like you said bloggers. Holy crap.
So then you think, oh, wow, she survived. And then the way the story starts out was she was the sole survivor. Plot twist to make it really sad. In the takeaway part, he says that, you know, she was lucky because usually you're taught to stay at the site of the crash or whatever because that's what people will be looking for.
Right.
So your chances of surviving are better if you just stay put.
Oh.
And the same with, like, there's another story where someone's car broke down and they try to, like, walk their way out of the desert.
Oh.
But her car was found like weeks before she was.
Yeah.
She survived too, but
oh,
you know, so the kind of the normal thinking of stay where you were, kind of her not doing that saved her life, because they didn't find the plane crash for weeks after the actual, so I guess the plane exploded. So the sad part is that there were other survivors, but they stayed at the crash site waiting, and so they died of starvation and their injuries. And then, like, the last sentence of the story, her parents were on the flight.
No.
Well, her mom. So her mom was one of the survivors that stayed.
No.
I know. I was like, the story just kept breaking my heart. So.
And that's where it's like, wow, like, you're a survivor, but
for, like,
at what? And that's where I think maybe my friend is like, at what cost? Like, what are you doing? But you have to, if that's what you want, you have to have that survivor spirit. And it sounds like all these people that we've talked about had that already in them, that they just, it's like, okay, what else are you going to do? Like, she found herself in the jungle, like, okay, here I go. Guess I'm going to keep going because I'm alive.
And that was like what her mom and dad had taught her too. Yeah.
And that's good for us to know too. I mean, it makes sense if people are going to, you know, use boats or drink water or go fishing, you're probably going to see someone along the water versus risking getting lost. Yeah. Like, water at least is like people know where water is. People don't know where all the random trees are in the middle of the forest. Yeah. Let alone, can you imagine all the animals in there getting bit by spiders and snakes and what's down there? Jaguars.
And that's what I think is probably too, in terms of, they knew the plane exploded, but it's a rainforest, so you're not going to be able to see it necessarily from the sky.
And this was in the
70s.
So obviously the resources back then too are more slim than today, like technology and everything. Yeah. Being able to track it. Yeah. Oh, all of it hurts my body.
I know, so that one stuck out to me when I was reading. Because you can imagine, so I don't know, it sounds like there was more of a concentrated crash site, but people were also like getting thrown randomly. So then it's like, her and her mom knew, and I would assume the same with other passengers. Yeah. It's like, oh, like, my daughter's not here, you know. And the same with her too. She probably just thought, like, well, there was like no one else around.
Yeah. And can you imagine, I was just thinking too, like, the feeling of survivor's guilt. Or you have PTSD because you, for some reason, are the one who was not.
And that's probably what that resource too. Yeah. For survivors, if there, you know, multiple people are involved, that would be a huge, I can imagine, issue.
Yeah, there's a whole Psychology Today, which I really like this website. Like, what everybody should know about survivor's guilt. And it's that whole thing of, like, it is very real. It's just insane. It's common. They said it's common among Holocaust survivors, war veterans, lung transplant recipients. Ugh, that just breaks my heart. And airplane crash survivors. And then those who've lived through natural disasters. Yep.
I mean, I haven't been, like, I don't have a survivor story, but for some reason that survivor's guilt, like, I don't know what the right word is, but I can really, like, imagine it. Yeah.
Or empathize, rather. Yeah.
So just, like, I can't, like, that's just me, like understanding it. Yeah. And, like, feeling it on, like, that other level, but to actually, like, live it, I can't imagine.
I mean, that's why they have, you know, psychologists and psychiatrists and counseling for all this stuff. You know, if people are survivors, like, definitely it's 100% normal to feel that way. Obviously, like what we're talking about, but it is surviving it seems like it's as much of a blessing as it is a burden at that point, until you're able to get the help to realize that it is a blessing and that it's not your fault, and that
because they survive.
You're lucky, but it's not like your living was like a trait. It wasn't like, you know, in Hercules when Hades is like, choose your soul or her soul. It's not a choice.
Yeah.
That's just how life worked out. And obviously we're not counselors or specialized to give advice. We're just transferring information from online to your ears. Yeah,
but it's good that they have the resources and help, and that we understand, you know, about survivor's guilt and stuff. Because I mean, I can imagine again that like you're surviving it, but you've lost so much also, whether or not like it was like a plane or a natural disaster where maybe you did lose a relative or, you know, a spouse or, you know, someone important in your life, but you survived. So, you know, like there is a lot of loss too,
in spite of being alive. And that makes you think, what is being alive if you don't have those things? Which is such a harsh thought to think about. It definitely puts things in a different light. And I think it's easy, like a lot of podcasts talk about like crimes and murder and people, I mean, like we said before, like there's not a lot of survival stories that get talked about. It seems like. I think MFM was one of the few that actually did that.
Yeah, they were doing the I survived
like episodes.
When Karen didn't have enough time to research an episode, she'd do an I survived.
Yeah, because she had them memorized. But
and then the I survived show. I mean, I guess with podcasts nowadays, I bet if we searched like survival, there would probably be podcasts now.
There's probably more, but it just seems like generally speaking, most people are seeking true crime podcasts, which true crime is typically about, most of the time, it sensationalizes murder, which then is like they're talking about people's real lives being taken. And in the same light, you're talking about, rather in the same darkness, if you're talking about survivors of these gruesome attacks, you know, it's still not great.
Yeah, most of the story ends
like, oh, they survived, like they should be so happy. It's not how it works. But that's what we're saying. You still have, I feel like at the end of the day, I would hope I still want to fight for my life.
Yeah.
For a future, for, you know, no matter how absolutely awful the circumstance, that you do have the resources to survive, and survive beyond just the physical state, but your actual mental state as well.
Maybe you would end up helping someone in a similar circumstance later on. Share your story and help people who might go through it or have gone through it, or group therapy, whatever it may be. There's always a way. I think that's what a lot of survivors who do end up sharing their stories try to focus on, is that there's a way to live beyond your like mental and physical scars. You know? Yeah, and a lot of them end up like, you know, being a lawyer, or like starting an organization, or joining an organization, or like becoming an activist. So there was a where is it? Let me just pull this up really quick, because it's literally what we're just talking about. Well, I can't find it now, but there are several different organizations that host like a ladies' fight night. Oh, nice.
That are self-defense classes for women.
Oh, that's cool.
But they're a lot of the times like taught by those who have been through scenarios that are, you know, being attacked, or, you know, are survivors of something specific that other people can relate to. Yeah, I was just realizing, I'm like, where was it called? And when I typed in ladies fight night, there's actually several different ones. I had read one that was specific, where the women had experienced assault. I can't remember exactly what that was because I just kind of said it briefly. And I wanted to save it, and now I can't find it, and here I am. But you get it.
Mm-hmm.
Good ideas. And you don't have to... How is this to be worded? There are measures that you can take before something happens as well.
Mm-hmm.
Where it's like a lot of the times it seems like survivors are then taking self-defense courses based on what they've experienced, and then them sharing their stories, I think, is more in hopes of helping prevent future circumstances, or bringing to light the opportunities to have control of your future in that way, which I think is good.
Yeah. Because
I mean, I'm sure if we were listen to enough I Survived stories, that there are people out there who've survived more than one circumstance or more than one event where it's like, this isn't the first time this has happened, or, maybe living in not such a great neighborhood and having several cases of assault or sexual assault. And it's like, just because it's happened to you one time doesn't mean it can't happen again.
It's true.
Ugh, none of it's great. None of it's good at all. But talking about it's important. For sure.
Yep. And if you or someone you know is suffering from survivor's guilt, or, had something bad happen to them, that just know that there are resources. You can get help.
100%. And we'll post those links on our website too, yournotparanoid.com.
But in the same, like Kylie was just saying, there's also ways you can help educate yourself and hopefully defend yourself with classes and seminars and, all these different groups as well.
And just talk to your friends and family, and like knowing that you have each other's backs, and like doesn't have to be just you looking for fights. Like that's not what this what this is about. It's just about, like everything else in our podcast, like having some level of preparation before possibly experiencing something awful. That way you're a little bit better off than if you had no experience or never had thought about it and you get totally caught off guard. So that's that.
Yep.
Very interesting. Okay, so the question is...
Oh, no.
Where do we go from here?
Where do we go from here?
Where do we go from here? I have an awful voice tonight. But I had fun singing it for a second.
I liked it.
Where do we go from here?
Is that a real song?
It can be.
It sounds like a real one.
It kind of does, doesn't it? But I like it because it has a different tune. I can look it up. Watch, it's like Beatles or something like super.
I was going to say Beatles.
That was a really fake laugh. Sorry. Where do we go from here? Chaos or Community is a 1967 book by African-American minister, Nobel Peace Prize laureate, and social justice campaigner Martin Luther King Jr.
Oh.
How is that going in my head? Well, that's interesting. I had no idea. Oh, there is a music video. Let's hear it.
But is it his speech?
No, it's a song called Where Do We Go From Here? Watch, it's like literally. Maybe I didn't hear this one time.
Where is this? Who sings this?
That's by Deborah Cox.
Do you know her?
No. And that's the crazy part is like, I don't even know how I said it.
I don't know.
Where do we go from here? Something like that. It was more of like an Alanis Morissette Beatles influence. Not quite so soulful as Deborah Cox because I really like her version better. But I don't have that voice. So
we could just play that clip at the end of the episode.
Cue Deborah Cox. Where do we go from here? So where do we go from here?
That is a good question.
In life and on the podcast. So okay, we talked about Well, our 2020 vision has been pretty good so far, if you think about it, right? So we went from, let me just look at these. Dang. Okay. We went from cover-ups to Are People Born Criminals, to the Innocence Project, to Aaron Hernandez and CTE, to self-defense, to survivors. It's pretty good.
Yeah. We can just see how far we can run.
I know, but where is the next running step? Where is our next hill?
We can start something random.
We're going to be on episode 48. Eight next.
We could do...
Maybe we think about it offline.
Okay.
To spare people. Excellent. Perfect. So that is it. We will think of our topic, and it'll be a surprise per the previous norm.
Or if you have a suggestion,
yes,
we'll take them.
Take them. We will take it right now, please, and thank you. But it won't really help, actually, because this isn't released until the day before we record.
We can do it on the fly.
We'll be quick. Be quick. Tell us right away. Thank you. Early listeners, we're counting on you. And that's it. So, thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Follow us on Instagram at You're Not Paranoid.
Twitter at YMP Podcast.
She means follow us at Twitter as well.
What did I say?
I'm like, follow us on Instagram, and you're like, Twitter.
Yeah, because it's like commas.
Got it. Follow us on, I got it. Instagram,
it's
Twitter.
Just what I meant was Twitter @ at YMP Podcast.
Twitter has a colon. Gross.
We
you
all
can
do.
also, that's how we poop. You can also
we could do a poop episode.
Eating poop.
Well, I mean,
poop in the eye.
The poop things.
Oh, gross. Well, think about it. You can check out our website, www.you'renotparanoid.com. You can send us your stories on our website under Contact Us, or you can email it to us at you'renotparanoid.com. No. you'renotparanoid@gmail.com. Thank you. And that is... I think that's all of it.
I think that's all of the things. We're streaming everywhere you listen to podcasts, and then pending iHeartRadio.
Yes. So if you're like that so much more than where we currently are, then you're welcome. Working on it.
We did it for you.
Yep, you were there. And here's a fun fact. We like to hashtag our photos, #YNP podcast. So if you want us to see your post, give us an @ and then hashtag it too. And then we can see that in our hashtag gallery. Is that a thing? I don't know. I'm just telling you. That's what we do.
You can
I just don't know if
hashtags.
anyone calls it a hashtag gallery.
They do now.
Welcome to our lives. And that is all.
Goodbye.
Thanks. Toodles.
Bye-bye.
Yang yang.